Well, there you go. All right. Well, we'll call this meeting to order. This is a meeting of a special committee appointed by Chairman Don Parsons, a special subcommittee, I should say, to study the issue of right-of-way governance in the off season. I want to thank the members that could be here and the ones that we have over there online. The no, I'll dispense with roll call and that sort of thing. We don't have any formal business today. I did want to convene and remind everyone you should have gotten this if you were appointed to the committee. But what the chairman would like us to do is he would like the subcommittee to return recommendations to the full committee for next session in order to create a just and equitable use of right of way. Uh, and then I'm going to assume that has the fees, any fees, monies that are collected on there, and having been around here a little while, um, we'll have good and robust discussion in the off session, I'm sure, about determining what the meaning to everyone is of just and equitable. And I say that with a smile on my face because it's our job to come to that and without a set way, a set thing in mind. If you've been around a bit, and I'll go to the Secretary of the Caucus, Representative Williamson, that we seem to hear every year in here that somebody's paying too much, or we get from the a government thing that we're not quite getting enough to cover. And so what I wanted to do this afternoon is number one, if anyone on the committee has a question, allow them to ask it, but also spread the interested parties that we are going to, the first step is to endeavor to capture all um, uses that pay, fees, taxes, franchise. I mean, basically, where remuneration is paid to a government entity, whether that be, state or local, or if in fact fees are paid somehow for the use of, even if it's state right away, if somehow there's a federal tax, put on a service that travels through there, we're going to capture all that in an effort to, um, capture the revenue that's being charged and the use that's being made, because we seem to come every year with the fee is to cover the maintenance of right away, and then when you have a question about, well, you're not really maintaining it, it's to make sure we don't have to have higher tax. All of those things are worthy parts of what we want to discuss. So I will stop there for a second, ask any of the members, Secretary, so do you have anything you want to add to, I mean, you've been around here for a minute and
No,
heard some of the discussion.
yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I hear you saying is we don't know who uses the right of way and what does everybody pay,
Yes, sir.
and then figure out a way that it's equitable amongst the users. At least ideally, we'd want to make sure that whomever's using right of way in Georgia, it would be each one of the users would be paying something that's equitable across the space. And I know it's not easy. If it was an easy task, we wouldn't be meeting as a special committee. Uh, so I look forward to the work of the committee and learning more about how the public right of ways are being used in Georgia.
Thank you. And you bring up an excellent question, because some of the services that are being charged for use in right of way because of technology now can fly over the right of way, can be delivered without a wire in the ground. And those folks that get the service that way may not be paying a fee, but their customers may not be getting the benefit of that. So it's to level it all off of what should be the fee for the right of way, what should there be as a tax, for getting that service. And I'll mention that to you also, as I do sit on Ways and Means. There's um, it may have a different name, but I'm going to call it streaming, discussion of a tax on streaming products, and how that is to make sure that there's not a double fee / right of way fee and sales tax paid on something. So we'll take that in. We'll take that into consideration. Well, there's a content fee that if one buys a digital book online, I don't think you pay a tax, but if you buy a hard copy book, you do. But that flows through the internet. We want to make sure that there's not a franchise fee being charged on that revenue, and then a sales tax, on one-off purchases. So we've had some discussion of bill this year where cities were using a DOT rate structure, and the committee decided that was and moved the bill forward, that was too much, but we haven't addressed it with DOT. And I see some folks from the DOT in the back of the room. We won't talk about you and not let you respond, but they too have fees associated with the permitting and maintenance and marking of these fees. So we just want to make sure that we capture that, and we know as a state, if the revenue doesn't come from that franchise fee or right of way use fee, it has to come from somewhere. They can't magically, do the services they need to do. So we'll include those things as well. Any of the other members? Uh, Chairman Dollar has just entered, the room. He is by appointment everyone gets. He is by appointment the vice chairman of the committee. Representative Moore is online. Representative, we're going to be able to see you, but we don't have the screen down, so no one else can.
Okay, no worries, as long as you can hear me.
You can.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you, Chairman, for convening this special committee. I'm happy to serve on it. I just wanted to recommend that if you think that a field trip to a right-of-way would be helpful for folks, including myself, to really visualize, what we're talking about in terms of maintenance and other aspects of the subject matter of this committee. I thought that it worked out really well last term when I reached out to a solar company to see if we could do a tour of the solar farm. That ended up becoming a whole EUT field trip out to Monticello, Georgia, and it was just a lot of fun. So if it was the will of the chairman to do something like that, I would very much support it. Would be happy to talk to the stakeholders to arrange something like that.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Any other members? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Chairman Martin. I think it might be picking up on what Representative Moore mentioned. Right-of-ways are not all created equally, and right-of-ways in a rural district might look very different than right-of-ways in a busy municipality like Atlanta or Macon or Savannah. So I think if we do that, I think it might be good to, and I think Chairman Martin had mentioned this before, maybe visit various areas of the state to look at right-of-ways and different issues that might be affecting a small community with 300 people are going to be more greatly impacted by DOT fees than, a larger community that could absorb more.
Well said. We'll see. I mean, there may be some people that would want to have that field trip, as the representative said, down in Augusta in a couple of weeks. I understand there's an event going down there. Mr. Harbin, can you? They're not letting as many people in, so we would all. Of course, I say that in jest. We have to have a little fun in here. They're not letting as many people in, but there is a good deal of right of way around that simple little golf course down there that we could stand. We can right away a pool, a pond, right away would be just right for us, right? So no, so back into serious. Now I'm going to go. There's some stakeholders in the room. You guys don't feel like you have to say anything, but what I want, and you're welcome to. So if you want to come forward, but what I would like to ask you all to do is help us identify the fees, the differences. I mean, I think we have 15 members of the subcommittee here. But as has been mentioned by the two members, right-of-ways are not all created equal. So we tend to get in here, and we've had some of these deep discussions over the years. We talk about the one-offs. We're not I don't think we're gonna develop policies for things that are way out here on the fringe, because they're gonna, it's a bit of a bell curve like. But it's good to know those things and try to be aware of that. So we'd like to, call upon you all to help us build that sheet of what the fees are, how they tie into, the ways and means to streamline, or not, it's not streamline sales tax, digital downloads tax, into the fees and all of the other fees. So I don't know if anybody wants to speak to anything, or if you want to volunteer. If you do not volunteer, make no mistake, I've been around here for a minute. I know who you are, and I will. Seriously, we're going to call on you to be part of this, because I know Chairman Parsons, when we come back, he's not going to want to hear, we're not happy with it, and because he may hear we're not happy with it, but he's not going to want to hear the second part. And we weren't allowed to participate. You're going to be allowed to participate. And we're going to make it easy. We'll we may go out around the state, but we'll try to provide virtual ability. So that's really all I had today. I just, several people have been asking, what are we going to do? When we're going to start? I know we're down to what, day 34 tomorrow, 34, 35. So we're not going to try to do anything more than we'll probably get some paperwork out. And I'm going to get a schedule out to the members about a scheduling of meetings in the interim. But Clint, I know you were with our friends at the counties. I'm hoping we can count on you all. Mr. Harbin, are you here in support of or on behalf of any? Okay, Georgia Power and the EMC. Well, we're going to look for all of you guys to do that. So, folks from DOT, do you want to weigh in, or just? Okay. Sure. And that's an excellent point. And we don't have you on the mic. If we get closer to a mic, we'll turn you on. That's an excellent point. And one I want to make, that I want to capture just that. I want to make sure that we capture, and again, and it'll be a policy decision to decide, but that if there's a cost to moving, lines when a road construction or that we at least know if we're charging a little bit up front, so we can do that, we can handle that later, or if it's just for planning and then we charge. Because I know if you, Georgia Power had what do you call those things when it's underground? It's a vault, basically. It's an underground transformer, switching station. We had to move one of those years and years ago when I was mayor. We had to move it 10 feet. It could have been 10 miles. It cost essentially the same thing to move that thing under there. So when those things are put in there, the companies have to pay for that expense when they decide to move it. I just want to make sure that we capture what we're charging them for being in there. And I'll show a little bit of my hand here to the folks from, the counties and the cities that charge this. Is we've heard over the years that this is done so we can maintain the right of way. Well, over the years, the last 30 years, people's power consumption has increased, and therefore their power bill has increased, 2 and 3-fold. Again, our rates have been good. I don't want to beat up on the EMCs or the power companies. We have very affordable electricity in the state, but just we use power. We use electricity for more things. The cost of the right of way may or may not have gone up the same amount. But again, if that money doesn't come into a city from there, it's going to come from the property tax base or some other revenue source. So we just want to capture that and try to allocate the cost into the right place, and then make good policy decisions. Representative, I know you had something.
Well, I got this follow-up question. This is such a huge issue. I was just wondering, to the DOT, especially road widening projects, are there national best practice models that other states that the Georgia DOT has investigated, looked at, say, hey, that's a good model? Are there? I'll leave it at that. Yeah, is that where Beth wants to go on the field trip?
Yeah. So,
but does my question make sense?
So I'll jump in again. I'm Josh Waller with Georgia DOT. We've also got our state utilities engineer, Patrick Allen, behind me. And I think I would actually stand what we have up against anyone nationally in terms of our ability to turn around. I know a couple of last couple of years, there was a discussion about turning the amount of time it takes to turn around applications for these permits, and the idea of like 60-day shot clocks, 30-day shot clocks. Well, we on average, his office has a performance metric of turning it around in 3 days. So I mean, so we have a system in place, and we have a digital system where all the permitting's digital, and what goes into feeding the cost of maintaining a system so that you know what's in the right of way. It's not just sort of obviously a one and done. You put it there, that's the only cost. There's a cost associated with maintaining knowledge of it. And I think we'll be able to demonstrate on our part that really pretty straightforward is the cost of the utilities office and how that compares to the fee. And really at the end of the day, our goal is just to ensure that we're offsetting the cost of that utility service. And it's actually not even towards the cost of maintaining, like doing any maintenance in the right way. It's just the cost of that service that we see as the office that liaisons with utilities, and that they provide that service to the utilities. So that's kind of where that's some of the information we look forward to bringing forward.
Applaud you on the permitting part of it. I was really frankly talking about the infrastructure part of it is so much are there
Well, and yeah, so I'm sorry. And so having that type of information, having that ability does make that easier when you've got that relationship. And Patrick and his team have that relationship to help in the utility coordination. I mean, it's a relationship thing. It's in terms of best practices nationally, there might be some other states where you've got a harsher hand, but we've got a pretty, I think we try and do it as much through collaboration as possible, but it's a reality. If there's one delay in one utility relocating or something, then it can have a cascading effect on when that other utility can get out there and relocate. So there's a lot at play there, and there's a lot that goes into making sure it's as seamless as possible to have that information and be aware of it. So I guess to your point, there probably are some other things that we could look at as states in that sense of the actual just relocation, but that opens up another can of.
Yeah, and again, we can have offline discussions about that, but I was actually thinking about new construction, and when you do move, are there like in conduits that you can shared conduits, or I'm thinking obviously fiber optic type stuff, or that I don't know, it could be gas lines or whatever, or electricity going on right away. I don't know. I don't have an engineering background, so I don't know what stuff could co-locate in pipes or conduits, and it's just the thought.
Absolutely.
If it's deep enough, you wouldn't have to do it. If a conduit's deep enough, you could ride in a road and not affect any of your underground services.
And there is in terms of our planning team, the planning director in that office, they are looking closely at the issue of new location, and particularly with an eye towards the broadband deployment. What are some of the strategic things that you want to try and do, or try and time it when you're going to be in the right of way working? So those efforts are going on. Obviously, it's still areas that can be developed out, but it's on the front of our mind about what are some of those best practices.
Yeah, great points that have going into I know I don't think I'm incorrect in saying this. There is still dark fiber up Georgia 400 that was installed when that road was widened to 4 lanes. Am I correct in saying that? Do you recall?
I can't confirm that. I know we have fiber for our own use.
Right.
A lot of the interstates, a lot of it put in the ground back during the Olympics and times like that, but it's not necessarily privately owned dark fiber, but we have capacity as an agency for our interconnect and our intelligence transfer systems.
Yeah, my recollection was, and this goes way back from my municipal days, which were predate the Olympics, was when some conduit was going in the ground, that dark fiber was run out of some major hubs in the city. One of the arteries was to up Georgia 400 to Windward Parkway, because I remember having a group of folks over from Asia in the mid 90s talking about dark fiber was already in place, ready to use. And they were talking about building buildings and having people move in them, high-rise buildings in China before electricity got there. And they were amazed that we had fiber conduit to build business in Georgia, and they were moving people in buildings without, electricity. So that'd be great. I mean, those are the things that I think we want, because again, looking at the gentleman, the chairman's charge is right of way governance. Now, of course, we have a transportation committee in the House, and we're not going to step on Chairman Jasper's toes in working with how you guys deal with your right of way. But I think just as we look, we ought to have a what if that says, is there a better, fee for using the right of way if you play by, these rules that make it easier for us. If you're installing it now going forward, if you get a discount on the fee going forward, if you do it in such a way that it's easier to handle or move or whatever, if we can just get our hands around that, those are just a lot of what ifs that I would like us to look for. And I would look for, Chairman Dollar, you and others to, help us as we go. The plan, I'll get a schedule, but I think we probably, or it'd be a bit like a study committee. We would meet 3 to 5 times in the interim. We'll just see. And I think we, joking aside about the field trips to alternate pieces of the universe and taking seriously the field trip that might be in addition to a meeting, I do think we want to meet around the state. I mean, there's probably going to be people in various geographical areas are going to be very interested from a city and county perspective. So, an Atlanta meeting, a North Georgia meeting, maybe a meeting toward the coast and down toward Columbus would be something I would think about. Clint, if you don't mind, I would lean on you at ACCG and our friends at GMA to kind of help us we listen to this, because I know, cities and counties, quite frankly, especially cities, are going to hear this and think about it only as a revenue source. And it's not out to cut off a revenue source. It's out to get our hands around it so that we don't have to talk about it year after year and piecemeal policy around it. That's all I had. And I appreciate everybody's, hope you didn't stay a whole lot of extra late. Hope you had other reasons to be here. Representative Makes, you got anything for us? You just stayed for us. All right. Well, if we can, I'll get you out of here 8 minutes early if there's no further business. If y'all would give us your contact information so we don't have to chase it later. We may have it all, but if we don't, if there's no further business, we'll stand adjourned without objection. And without objection, we're adjourned.